You are about to watch the true story of Napoleon Bonaparte, one of history's most influential military leaders. Following the victory at Austerlitz, his power reached its peak. Ruling most of Europe with an army that had proven unstoppable on the battlefield, he faced no immediate military challenger on the continent. Yet Britain remained out of reach. Protected by the English Channel and a dominant navy, the island nation represented the one frontier Napoleon's soldiers could not cross. With a naval invasion impossible, Napoleon shifted his strategy. He moved away from traditional warfare to launch a massive experiment in economic isolation. This map illustrates the continental system. Its central decree was total isolation. No European country under French influence could trade with Britain. The plan rested on a single hypothesis. By severing access to European markets, the British economy would be starved into collapsing. The policy failed to produce the intended results. British goods continued to enter the continent through smuggling networks, while local merchants faced bankruptcy and major ports sat idle. Instead of crushing his rival, the blockade frustrated Napoleon's own allies and weakens the economic stability of the French Empire. The system faced its first major test when Portugal openly refused to comply with the trade restrictions. To enforce his decree, Napoleon sent a massive military force through Spain in 1808. The troops moved toward the coast to bring the Portuguese government into compliance by force. This intervention triggered a massive uprising across Spain that the French command had not anticipated. Groups of ordinary citizens, farmers from the countryside, and local priests organized to defend their land, refusing to yield to the French occupation. A march intended to secure a trade blockade mutated into a decentralized rebellion that conventional military tactics struggled to contain. The Spanish resistance utilized a new pattern of warfare, relying on surprise attacks, mountain ambushes, and hit-and-run strikes rather than pitched battles. French soldiers occupied a landscape where every village and road represented a potential ambush. The constant threat of an invisible enemy began to erode the army's morale. This conflict, known as the Peninsular War, would eventually be described by Napoleon himself as the Spanish ulcer. The war became a permanent drain on French resources, pinning down hundreds of thousands of troops and consuming the empire's wealth. As the conflict in Spain worsened, Tsar Alexander I of Russia grew increasingly resistant to the failing continental system. Alexander eventually reopened Russian ports to British trade, representing a direct challenge to Napoleon's continental authority. Viewing the defiance as a personal provocation, Napoleon abandoned negotiations and mobilized for a full-scale invasion of Russia. This chart shows the scale of the mobilization. In 1812, Napoleon assembled a force of over 600,000 soldiers, the largest invasion army Europe had ever seen. By refusing to tolerate any challenge to his system, Napoleon committed his empire to a high-stakes two-front war. The invasion began with high expectations of a swift victory, as long columns of soldiers marched across the Russian border in the summer heat. The Russian army avoided direct engagement. They retreated deep into the interior, drawing the French further away from their supply bases. As they retreated, the Russians burned their own villages and crops. This scorched earth policy ensured that Napoleon's advancing army found only ruins and ash. With local resources destroyed and supply lines overextended, the French soldiers grew progressively weaker with every mile they advanced into the Russian heartland. Napoleon had outpaced his logistics, entering a trap of geography and time just as the Russian winter approached. To be continued in Part 9. Next part, the Russian disaster, how winter destroyed Napoleon's greatest army and changed history forever. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Stories Dose so you never miss the next chapter of history.